Hey, welcome back to another Getting Together. It's us, the dynamic duo. You know him, Jeremy Brinkerhoff and me, Ray Challoner. We are so happy to be back with you, and I hope that you're happy to be back with us. Why wouldn't you be? You know what I'm saying?
There's no reason.
There's absolutely no reason.
It's spring.
You wouldn't want to get together with us. This is what I'm saying. It
Right.
is. It's spring, and Prescott's the place to be. Because how'd that work out for you?
So good.
Because my friends in Milwaukee, no bueno. Snow. What are you doing?
Still?
Are you turning my microphone up?
No.
Oh, turning me
I'm
down.
just making some adjustments on the
Turning
fly.
it. He's muting me.
Yep. Boop.
Yeah. So Prescott's place to be. It's gorgeous. 70 degrees today.
It's going to be awesome.
Yes. You've got your pineapples on, so you're
Yep.
feeling a little.
I am feeling summery.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done with this
You're
winter
moving on.
thing.
Yep.
Moving on.
Winter thing. We've had, 2 months? 2 months of that winter.
Maybe like 2 days within those 2 months. But still, done.
Hardcore is
It's
bringing us
Arizona.
down. Yes. So anyway, we're happy to be back with you.
Definitely.
And we decided we wanted to talk this morning about driver's ed.
Yeah, driver's ed.
I mean, because you've got two
I have 2 drivers.
that are
2 young drivers.
one that's driving, one that's almost
her
driving,
permit.
got her permit. And so I'm
Yeah.
starting to see a few gray hairs there, my friend.
Oh,
Would that be why?
It is a challenge. It is a challenge.
First of all, let's talk about you
Yeah.
and your driving.
Yeah.
Did your mom and dad teach you to drive, or did they pawn you off onto driver's ed?
So we had a little bit of both. In California, we did have a driver's ed course that we had to complete.
Was that in your school? Did your school provide that for you?
There was a school option, and there was
Yes.
something else. I can't remember what the other option was, but I'm
private.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think it was a little more rigorous than what our kids have gone through.
Right.
My daughter seriously took the driving permit test in less than 3 minutes.
Mine too.
Less than
Exactly.
3 minutes. So I'm kind of thinking, oh gosh, I don't.
So now when
that
we
wasn't much
drive
of a vetting
around
process.
Prescott, we know why we're wanting to honk at those people.
Yes. So my mom and dad actually they shared most of the responsibility. They did.
Who's the better driver, your mom or dad?
I think they're both good drivers.
Oh,
I think my dad was definitely more calm. I remember a couple of instances where you have like the whole starfish splayed because God, please no. And rightfully so.
Right.
At the time, as I'm now looking back, it's another one of those moments as a parent
You're like,
where like
I get it.
as a kid I thought, gosh, why are they so uptight? Gee
Loosen
whiz,
up.
like I know what I'm doing. I'm 16. Oh my goodness. And now I'm like, this is insane. You're gonna give the keys to a car to a 16
a weapon. This is a weapon.
Are you nuts?
You're crazy.
Yes. So looking back once again, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Mom and dad, they handled it pretty well. So
Good for
yes, thank you, Mom and Dad.
Good job, guys.
There was I do remember one particular time I was with my mom. There's a really funky intersection.
Yeah.
Visalia, where I grew up.
Uh-huh.
Everything's laid out as a grid. So
Okay.
nice
I
and
like
easy.
that. Nice.
Except this one intersection.
Of course,
and
there's gotta
there's
be one.
a shift. There's a shift in the lanes. So they have it all painted very nicely.
Yes.
But you do change from like, if you're going to go straight across this intersection, you do actually have to make a bit of a correction
Okay.
to still be in that whatever lane you're in.
Right.
And so as I'm approaching this, in my mind, I see what's happening.
Yeah.
My mom's not entirely sure that I do because I haven't like verbalized anything.
Right.
There's a goose. There was a goose in here.
There's a goose in here.
Yeah. It is allergy season, so
Yep.
I will excuse the goose. But as we're approaching this and starting to go through, my mom, she goes, jog. And I'm like,
What does that mean?
I don't know. And so I'm yelling back, I don't know what's happening. And so she's frustrated. I'm frustrated. Now I'm so flustered
Right.
and flummoxed that I'm like, I don't know. So
Hands off the
maybe
wheel.
jog, whatever. So I kind of end up not
driving a
actually following
bus?
the lane. So then I do end up not being in the correct position. I'm just like straddling a lane now.
Thanks, Mom.
So she's like, why didn't you jog? I'm like, I don't know what that was supposed to mean in that moment. And so there's some communication issues.
Wait, what does
with
it
that.
mean?
It means like to shift one way, just like to jog
Is
a little
that
bit
like
to the left.
her own interpretation of that word?
No, so she's an English teacher. So this is like
Okay.
this is maybe like
Oh.
I don't know. You can correct me, Mom. Some other
And she
or
will.
in the chat.
There you
can
go.
put it in there.
Put it in the
but,
chat
But
for all
like
of us to see.
maybe like 3 or 4 definitions down. It's like that little boop, boop,
Chat.
that thing kind of
Okay. Jump over.
little jump over.
Yeah,
Burp,
a little jog.
A little jog.
Okay.
Just a little jog to the left.
Jog! Oh my
I
god.
don't know what to make. So I'm
is
trying
funny.
to like I've now relearning with my kids
Yes.
that I want them to express
Okay.
like I'm about to do this because
Okay.
and like especially with Ethan I see him and I'm in the passenger seat
Right.
and I see the traffic slowing down but it seems like he's not quite
quite.
anticipating
Right.
and so then I'm like, hey, you need to stop. You need to stop. He's like, I see the cars. Okay.
I'm 16,
so
Dad.
exactly. So I'm like, okay, until we get better at this, like you just need to say, okay, hey, Dad, I see the cars. I'm going to slow down.
That's
perfect.
great
Then at least I
communication.
know
Yes.
that you see
Eases
it's not
daddy's
just
anxiety.
you know? So
So you don't have to put your brake on like my mom
yes.
still does when I drive.
nice.
Still 40, how old am I now? 49 years old. And I'm driving my mother and she's putting her brake on in the passenger side. Mom, what are you doing? Oh, did I put my brake on? I'm like, yes, you did. Been driving for a while now, Mom.
Yes.
I got it. I
Nice.
got you. I'm okay.
And who taught you?
So a little bit of my stepdad, he kind of wanted me to learn defensive driving. So we had lived in California,
Okay.
but now we're in Washington and we got occasional snow.
Okay.
So a couple of times he took me out to learn how to come out of a spin, which I thought was brilliant because I did actually experience a couple of spins. So
Wow.
I knew what to do. I knew to let off and let the car self-correct. I did it all right. So I didn't go in the ditch.
And
with
what does
my
that
car
look like? I've never
full of
taken like spin
15-year-old
training
kids.
for
What does
for
it
cars.
look like?
What does that look like? How do you take someone out, like when it's snowy and icy?
No,
When
he
it's
just
wet,
we
or-
kind of just pretended.
Oh.
Like he was like I was going kind of in a circle and he's like, okay, if you were spinning, this is what you would do. So I just kind of
okay.
got the feel of it and it was in my head.
Okay.
Because in, driver's ed, they don't teach you those things. It's really
Right.
just the road code.
The road code. Right. Which they don't teach here either.
Oh, really?
This is why you can pass the test in 3 minutes and still be like,
And mine-
so I don't understand.
It was 3 minutes. Parallel parking. We went up to this teeny tiny little town called Mount Vernon, and I didn't tell any of my friends that I was doing my driver's test in case I failed. I didn't want the shame of it.
Oh, yeah. Why would you?
Because others had gone before me and told us, and then came back, and we were like, you failed. So I was like, I'm not doing that. So had a sick day, went up Mount Vernon, and they're like, do this, your blinkers, make sure the car works. Which, seriously, back in the day in Marysville, Washington, so many cars were junkers. But you want to make sure that my turn signal works. Okay. So anyway, and they're like, now we're going to do the parallel park. I'm sweating. Parallel parking. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
They don't even do it anymore.
Are you serious?
Not here.
Well, because cars do it for you now.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the cars I have.
Mine either. Mine either. So anyway, they're like, just pretend there's orange cone here and an orange cone here and try and do it. And I think I even bumped the back orange cone. Still passed.
Oh,
Flying
nice.
colors.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Now
Well
in
done.
England, I went to get my driver's license
Yeah.
and they were just mean. He actually said, you Americans, to me. You Americans. Yeah, that's what he said.
Brutal. You Americans.
Totally different driver's lessons over there. Totally different.
Yes.
They drive aggressive, super aggressive,
Okay.
and defensive.
Okay. Well, all right.
So, but Andy and I have already talked about our kids. They're not quite there, 12 and 11.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep
But
a
Lennox
couple years.
is totally into cars and wheels and the working of things. And so I've already done put him on my lap and let him,
Oh, okay.
steer into the garage and
Yeah.
back out on my lap and
Yeah.
get him familiar with that kind of stuff.
All right. Fair enough.
My dad did that.
I was a little shocked with just some basics, like as I took Ella out this weekend and we came up to a four-way stop
Right.
And she just waited so patiently.
Oh, bless her heart.
And I'm like, you need to go. Well, what do you mean? I'm like, you need to go. Like,
It's
people
our
are looking at
turn.
us, and like
Right.
now it's over by Costco. So that thing's like, it's
it is.
always,
That
it's
is a
always,
hard
it's
one.
a busy one. And so then I had her like, okay, let's just stop, pull over, let's talk through this thing. She's
Right.
like, well,
Perfect.
I thought anyone who came had the right of way. I'm like,
Oh.
no.
It's the person on your right, right?
But if you arrive at
Right?
the same time, it's to the right.
To the right.
Whoever gets there first, you
Goes.
have the right of way.
Right.
Right. So we got there like 45 seconds before the next car.
Okay.
And she's like, oh, I thought he had the right of way because I'm like, okay, no. So again, there's this educational piece
Right.
that I'm thinking we're coming into it with a little more know-how, understanding just from the book learning.
Yes.
But there's not a very lot of
Practical.
strict.
Right.
It's not very stringent on the front end. So
Yes.
kind of trying to now figure out in my own mind, like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I need to pattern this a little bit better. We can't just like throw her to the wolves.
No.
I need to have some sort of structure that we talk through things, that we communicate before we go out so that we're not
Right.
making decisions
So
and
you
having
guys are going to do
conversation.
the sole driver's lessons with them. You're not paying for someone to teach them.
At this point, no, but I don't know if that's really the best idea at this point.
Okay. And high
But
school
it's-
doesn't
it's
do
a
it
tough.
anymore, right?
No,
Like
not
they've
that I know
taken
of.
that out.
Not that I know of.
Okay. Because you
But-
used to be able back in my day. It was part of high school. You
Yeah.
could take it. Yeah.
One of the challenges for us that we found is that where we live, well, and I think it's pretty true for most of Prescott Valley, because of the topography here.
Yes.
We have you can't avoid the major highways.
No.
Like if you're going to go from one place to another, you
That's
have
it.
to be on a Highway 69 or 89.
Yes. And it can
And
be
growing
scary.
up, I knew how, like, until I got comfortable, I knew back roads to take that I didn't have to
Right.
be on major roads with a lot
And
of
as
people.
a parent, that would make me feel better.
Yeah.
Take a back road.
Yeah, take a back road.
Yes.
And so, like, I mean, we did some back road stuff with Ella and Ethan, but like
Eventually,
to go to church,
they're gonna have to
go to a
merge.
grocery store, like
they're going
you
to have to merge.
hit
Yep.
one of those two major highways.
I know.
6 lanes across.
And
So-
roundabouts now. 'Cause
Roundabouts.
That wasn't a thing in our day.
No, it was not.
That was a
No, it was not.
European, keep it over there
Yeah.
across the pond. And now,
It's here.
They're
and I
over
understand
here.
that they're actually taking theirs out
are they?
while we're putting more in.
Oh my gosh, how
So,
funny.
Whatever.
Because that was hard for me to get
good.
used to. First of
Yeah,
all,
they're
I'm
very
on
strange.
the right-hand side, shifting with my left hand. And now you want me to go around this loop-de-loop thingy. You're
Nice.
insane.
Nice.
Those people. Those
But-
people.
Those people over there.
Yeah, married to one
Oh.
of them.
Nice.
Anyway, so I expect more really good material from you and your family.
If I survive. If I survive. Yep.
It's going to be good
But
stuff.
what a way to go.
Look
you know?
forward to that.
What a way to go.
Way to go.
Like we were talking last week with our guests Ben and Sasha.
Yes, Sasha, right?
Like what a way to go.
Yeah.
If you want to go, like quick.
Yeah, that's
Quick
the way
and
to
painless.
go. Yep.
Bam. Right there.
Right.
Hopefully we don't get to that point.
Hope not.
So we have a guest today.
We do.
And who's our guest?
We have
Ray.
Bert Hunt. And I was saying earlier, I love the name Bert. I love it.
That's good.
Nobody's naming their kid Bert anymore. Why
Very
not?
few. There's
Very
one in our
few.
church.
Yes.
A little 2 or 3 year old
See?
Bert.
Bringing
and he is
Bert
adorable.
back.
I mean, super precocious, very
Oh,
cute. Bert.
See, that's what
You're
I
like,
think of the name.
He's a Bert.
Bert. That kind of
Okay.
name. So we'll see if our Bert today is precocious.
Measures up. Well, I don't. Yes, we will. We will see.
Yeah.
If our Bert is precocious.
Perhaps. So, anyway, now it's on to our interview with Bert Hunt. Hey, here we are. Told you I'm a woman of my word. It is Bert Hunt. He's back with us. And we're going to learn a little bit about Bert now, but we're also going to tell you a little bit about what Bert does.
Yes,
Because
definitely.
it's near and dear to his heart and also to mine. And I don't know about Jeremy. He's kind of callous, but maybe he feels a little bit for our displaced population. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So here's one of our getting together friends walking by. Bert, tell us, first of all, what it is that you're here for. You gave us very nice little brochures. Let's talk a little bit about what that is.
We have a place in Prescott Valley called the House of Hope 316,
Okay.
and it's a place to house and feed homeless elderly people. so that they will not become homeless.
Okay.
The first house opened up in 2019 in Prescott Valley. It's a duplex where we rent both sides. And then the second house was opened just a few months ago. So we can house up to 15 elderly men or women at any one time.
Okay.
And it's something I didn't anticipate doing at this point in my life, but I love what God has me doing.
It's awesome.
And a lot of people, I'm a small part of it. A lot of people make this happen.
Yeah, you bet.
And it's been working really well, and it's a very unique solution to the growing number of homeless men and women that simply because of finances can't find a safe place to stay, and they end up on the streets homeless.
And so, what are some of those criteria? How old does a person need to be a part of that program? And sort of what are the parameters of income and other things as far as what it takes to be a resident there?
We primarily serve 60 years of age and older, but we make exceptions based on the need.
Okay.
We're not an emergency overnight shelter where they have to leave during the day. There's several of those here in town that do a very meaningful service to our community. What we envisioned from the beginning and what we've seen is a calm, peaceful, safe place where elderly can live together as a family. They care about each other. They often help with the chores to reduce the amount of staff we need because it's their home and they take pride in it.
Yeah.
And if they have income, they pay a little bit of rent based on their income. That helps cover about 40% of our cost. The rest comes from people who want us to stay open, so they donate to make that happen.
Excellent.
And if they have no income, they don't pay, but that's okay. But our staff prepare and serve all the meals, do all the cleaning, do all the laundry.
Neat.
And it has been more than we expected and better than we expected. But a lot of volunteers and the residents are the ones that make this happen.
How long can they stay?
As long as they are able to live independently, safely.
Okay.
We provide no medical care. We're not licensed or trained or certified to do that. So those that can live independently, now some need home health care. Some have trouble walking and they're in a wheelchair or they're on oxygen. But these are people who would have been homeless otherwise.
Okay.
And so if they can live independently, we've had several that have been with us since we opened 3 years ago. For some, it's transitional until they make it back to family or get money saved to be on their own. Can I tell a quick story?
Yeah, please do.
I met this guy, Don, at Wendy's on Glasper Hill Road about 4 years ago now. Found out he was homeless, sleeping in his car at 80-something years old, could barely walk. And at one time in his younger years had been a sparring partner for Rocky Marciano, the heavyweight champion. And now he was homeless, sleeping in his car. So as a result of that meeting and some friends joining me to start praying about it, within 2 years we had opened up the House of Hope in Prescott Valley. I got a call a couple of years ago from some friends here with another agency about a woman who had heart surgery, had no place to go. The agency put her in a hotel for a while, then she used her money and it was running out. She was within 1 day of her money running out. She was probably barely 5 feet tall, was on oxygen, could barely walk, and was weak from the surgery, and she would have been homeless. No place to go.
Oh my gosh.
She had family, but they weren't in this state and they weren't part of the solution at that time. And so we met, we interviewed her. She was capable of living independently. She joined us in 2019 at the end of the year. She was Italian, loved to cook. And she was a very good cook. So she became part of our part-time paid staff, which gave her a little bit of extra pocket money, helped us.
Yeah.
And then about a year later, she reconnected with her family, went back home to be with her family, which is great when that
really
happens.
good. Yes.
It's rare, but in her case, it was great. She actually called me about 6 months ago to see how we were doing and to say hi. And I think she's in her 70s now. When she sent me a picture with a bandana on her hand, she's learning how to play the drums. But for that year, she lived with us and was a very meaningful part of our family and still stays in touch with us.
Oh, that's
awesome.
so great, Bert. Wow, it's a
So
great
then,
story.
just as far as the population that you have there, about what percent are women and what percent are men? And do you have separate homes for the two, or how does that work?
Not separate homes, but they obviously don't live in the same room. Some rooms are semi-private, some are private.
Okay.
We have one married couple that have their own room. They actually just celebrated, I think, their 48th wedding anniversary. Wow. And 2 years ago, they were homeless, sleeping in their van with her in a wheelchair. And they've been with us now for about 2 years. Most of our residents it's probably half and half, with a few more women than men, and it changes. Some, because of health reasons, have to leave and go. We help them get into an assisted care facility, and that takes a while when their health deteriorates and we can't safely take care of them any longer. But our residents help also a lot. We took in a resident a couple of months ago that was being evicted from her home by her family, a home that she lived in for over 15 years.
Oh, my.
And had nowhere to go. We took her in, realized her level of dementia was more than we could handle.
Okay.
But for 6 weeks, we had to handle it before we could find a safer place for her to stay. And the residents did most of that. They watched her day and night to make sure she was okay. And
that's awesome.
It's nice to see that not only do they live there, but they're part of the family that makes this happen, and they're part of taking care of each other.
Yes,
that's really good.
Yes.
And I think so. A lot of people typically associate homelessness with substance abuse or alcohol abuse and things like that. How is that addressed within the community that you guys have created? And is that a problem, or do you not even see that?
It is part of the problem for some. Now, we've served the people that are homeless for many years in our ministry, mostly in the Phoenix area. Before I moved here 8 years ago, my wife and I. And addictions are a part of that. There's other reasons for it. Emotional and mental illness is a people that fall through the cracks there medically. And they have the same issues all of us have. They just happen to have no home. I think about this sometimes when I go to a restaurant. I see someone sitting at the table next to me, and I think, it's possible that they're eating at the same restaurant, maybe not as much food because they don't have as much money, but they wanted a safe place to sit inside and stay out of the weather.
Right.
But they see us and know that we're going home to our family and our home, and they don't have either.
Yes.
And it's very sad, very tragic, and we're delighted that God has decided to use us to make this happen, and He's really the one that gets the credit from day one, and continues to be the one that makes this happen. So it's been quite a blessing. Some days are more blessings than others, but it's a good thing.
That's good. And so just tell us a little bit about your story, how you became involved with homeless ministry, and kind of what that journey looked like from maybe recognize the problem to then actually being a part of the solution.
Yeah.
Okay. Good question. I never planned to be a part of this ministry, and there's been more than once, and a lot of you can probably identify that more than once I asked God if He wanted to give it to somebody else. I would gladly step aside and do something else,
I've been there.
But He chose not to, so that's okay. At one time, the primary thing that God had me involved in was taking people on weekend trips to Mexico to build houses for the very poor that lived in the city dump area.
Oh, yeah.
And a young lady joined us on one of our trips that I had never met before. And my daughter and she became really good friends. Turns out she had run away from home, a pastor's home, to run with gangs and do drugs, and had some wild years. Came back to God, and she came to us once and said, I want to go help the gang members find God in their life, and I want us to go feed the homeless in downtown Phoenix. Would you guys help me? So she began this ministry about 16 years ago.
Wow.
And it grew from there, and then it became a 501c3 nonprofit. A few years later, last year, we became a Arizona tax credit qualifying charitable organization.
Oh, excellent.
And so there's several parts to the ministry. One is helping people in an emergency situation with rent or mortgage payments or utilities so they don't get evicted or lose their utilities. And one is supporting some missionaries in Mexico that we support. And the third arm of the ministry is the House of Hope here in Prescott Valley.
That's great. Oh, that is excellent. Okay, so now we're going to shift just a little bit, if that's okay, unless you have more questions. I just want to know.
One more.
Okay, go ahead.
Just one more.
Go ahead.
So what are some of the current needs, and how can people be involved in helping you guys? Is it financial? Do you need volunteer boots on the ground kind of things? How can people support this ministry?
Thank you for asking. It sounds like a churchy answer, and it's really not. Our biggest need is prayer. This all happens because of prayer. We obviously have a need for finances since we opened up our second home. Our expenses have grown, but our finances haven't significantly. At one time, the rents we collected from the residents based on their income covered almost 80% of our bills. Now it covers less than 40%.
Okay.
So there's a weekly deficit of over $1,000 a week that comes from somewhere.
Sure.
And we have some friends that help, but there's still a deficit every month that God takes care of, and that is a need. We are looking for volunteers, but we limit that a little bit because of COVID. Our people are quarantined. They don't leave unless it's a medical appointment, and then we transport them, unless we have a scheduled outing for everybody. So we're very cautious because of the age and the health of our residents.
Sure.
We take a lot of precautions with that.
Okay.
There's a tremendous opportunity for church groups, such as Bible study groups or small groups, to become a prayer partner and a financial partner and get our weekly newsletter and become a meaningful part of the ministry as a group.
Okay.
So I would encourage anybody in a church group that wants to be actively involved in the community also, let us know. We've got something for them.
Oh, that'd be great.
That's so great.
That's a really good idea.
Yes. Well, I was going to circle back to that.
Okay, but
because I also wanted to know, can you give out to our listeners or viewers, how do they get in touch with you to do some of those things? What's a good way to?
Probably the best is call or text me on my cell phone, which is 602-390-1542. 602-390-1542. They can go to our website. Now, the House of Hope is the name of the building. The ministry, the corporate name is H10 Ministries, capital H, named after the chapter 10 of the book of Hebrews.
Oh, okay.
So H10 Ministries, that's plural.com. There's a video there about the House of Hope, and there's more about the nonprofit ministry itself, and a way to ask questions or contact us or get us your information so we can contact you.
Good.
And I'll give you my email address if you want. It's actually a Bible verse, Acts 20:24. So it's ACTS2024. My initials, B as in boy, H as in Harry, at AOL.com. Okay. I'm still one of the original AOL people.
Yes.
Hey, all right.
I'm an SBCglobal.net. I think there's two of us left.
Yeah, we'll make sure and put those across the screen in the bottom, and then also in the description.
So if any of you are interested, you can get in touch. I think that would be great. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so now I want to ask you about moving from the valley up here. Was that a big change for you guys?
That was a wonderful change. We escaped Phoenix like a lot of other people.
I know.
And primarily because my business, I was relocating my business here, I thought, and taking over another practice here. Back in my former days when I was employed full-time.
What was it that you did, Bert?
Financial planning with my son, Stephen.
Okay.
And we decided not to buy the practice, but we decided also not to stay in Phoenix. We just moved up here and commuted. Many of my clients were around the state. I've since sold that practice about 2.5 years ago to be involved full-time with ministry now.
Okay.
Wow.
And but we loved coming to Prescott area, as everybody does that I've talked to.
Yes.
And still have family in Phoenix, so we go occasionally, but not very often.
Yeah. They want to come up here. I'm
right.
sure.
That's the smart direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very wise.
Very wise.
Nice.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, was there anything else?
Well, I think you were going to shift gears.
I was.
Or was that okay?
Let's go. We were talking about driver's ed before, and you said you had kids.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to bring you in on that conversation really quickly to see, did you teach your kids to drive, or did you pawn them off on someone else?
Farm it out to a company.
They probably regretted it, but I did.
You did.
Tried to teach them how to change a tire themselves, and they had no interest in that at all. They just stood there and laughed at me while I had my back turned changing the tire for them. So now they call AAA.
Absolutely.
Like everybody
All
else.
right. But you tried.
But we tried. It was a moment.
Was it manual or was it stick?
Oh, no, it was automatic.
Automatic.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you? Have you taught
I learned
your
on
kids?
both.
You did?
Yeah, my dad had this little Ford Fiesta. It was like gold.
Ford Fiesta.
Oh man, it was awesome.
I had a friend with one of those.
By the time it got to me learning how to drive, it didn't matter if we dropped the transmission. We dropped the transmission. So we just went out to these
grind those
country
gears?
roads, and man, we just it was great.
Yeah,
I
aren't you
love
glad
manual.
that you learned
Oh,
on-
absolutely.
Yeah.
I miss it, but I mean,
Uh-huh.
still, it's really not so practical anymore.
No,
but
do they
it
even
is
make
fun.
them anymore?
I think they do, but you can't.
I don't know.
I think it's a premium.
I'm not
Is it?
sure I've seen one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you have to have
Long
like a supercar.
When
Maybe
we
they get like a
moved-
Bugatti.
We were very glad when we moved originally into the inner city of Milwaukee that we had a stick. Call it a stick. We had a stick
Yeah.
shift because nobody stole those.
Nice. Oh man, that's too much.
Nobody
That's a
does-
hassle.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, next. Go.
Forget it. I'll move on to the automatics. So it's kind of a blessing.
That's
Nobody
awesome.
stole those. Yeah.
That's
Okay,
really good.
that was my deep, burdening question for you, Bert. Was
Wow.
Did
It's
you
just-
teach your kids to drive?
I'm glad we covered that. I can sleep
Yes, you can
better
sleep
now at night.
Good, good. That was my big question.
That's good, Ray.
I
Thank
just
you so
needed to know. I'm
much.
taking a poll
Awesome.
for you now, Jeremy, to see if you're cheap
great.
or if you're just being a good dad. It's the jury's
Both.
out. Okay.
You can have it both ways. I can be cheap and a good dad. Cheap, good dad. But that's awesome. So now, in the area, just kind of this homeless problem. I don't know problem.
It's an issue.
Part. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things that I used to work with the fire department.
Okay.
And up in town especially, you'd have a lot of guys come to the VA, and then they just kind of didn't have a place to go. And so that was a large volume of the calls. Are some of the elderly homeless? Are they veterans? Have they come up here for
Some of
other
them are,
reasons? Or
Good question. And we get references when I get a call of somebody needing a place to stay.
Oh, good.
Sometimes those references will come from the VA. We have
Okay.
somebody just being released from the hospital. They have nowhere to live. Or from one of our local hospitals, one of the caseworkers will call and say, we have someone being discharged, but we can't till they have a safe place to stay. So they keep them,
Good.
and then they make calls trying to locate a place, but most places are full.
okay,
Adult Protective Services refer a lot of people to us in the
that's-
past, as does other homeless ministries that are full and they know that we may or may not have an opening. And we do work closely with several other ministries here in town and agencies that help those that are homeless. And we seek ways to help each other and work together.
that's good.
And one thing I would ask our viewers to pray for and pray about is I feel the next step for us is probably getting a building of our own that we don't have to pay rent or a mortgage on.
Okay, yeah.
So we're thinking there's a group of contractors that are starting to meet with us to talk about, is it possible to put together a team of contractors to build a place that's bigger than what we have now so we can help more people and wipe out that monthly rent that we pay that's about 35 to 40% of our overall budget, so that we can help more people with less need for donations. I realize that's probably a year or two off, but I expect that to happen. And so that would be my primary prayer request for people to be praying about.
That's a really cool goal.
It is. That's
Excellent.
a great goal. I like that.
All we need is a building, some land, the right zoning, people to build it without charging us anything, and then we're golden.
And the prices of materials to come down, and for all the shipping routes to open back
Yes,
up. And
I
no
know
problem.
someone
That's
who
easy.
could do that.
That's easy. That's not a problem.
I
It's
know
just
someone who
logistics.
could do
That's
that.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's really
Me
good.
too.
Yes.
That's
We
right.
talked about it the other day.
That's
Yes.
good. That's really
That's good.
So, Bert, as we kind of wrap some of these things up, one of the things that we do on this podcast is we just talk about who we would get together with. And this can be someone throughout history. This can be someone in your present. So what is that one person? Who would you get together with and sit down for a cup of coffee?
Fortunately, you warned me about this question.
Yes.
And
I do like to warn,
I had a
yes.
minute or two to think about it. One of my heroes is a woman who is no longer alive, but by the name of Corrie ten Boom.
Oh, yes.
The movie The Hiding Place, and her being in a
Yes.
concentration camp in World War II, and how
Yeah.
God used her for decades after that to impact the entire world.
Yeah.
And her books have had a big impact on my life, and she's one of my heroes that I would
That's good.
like
That
to
is
hang
a
out
good
to for
one.
the afternoon.
Be all right.
Awesome.
I'd join you on that one. Is
Yeah.
that okay? I
We'd
would
sit
go for
in.
that one. Yeah.
That's the nice thing. We get to have our own, and then we get to just enjoy
Yeah.
other people's.
I would sit
So
in on
we're
yours.
gonna get this.
It's a good one.
That's really good. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Getting Together. And please, we will have those links in the bottom if you would like to get involved, either financially, through prayer, just reaching out to volunteer. Like Bert said, man, these are a great thing for a small group to get involved in, to own, and to really begin to be part of the solution of the homeless. Just some of the problems that are facing the homeless community here in the Prescott Valley and Prescott area. So do that and like and subscribe. If you know someone, who might benefit from this, please share it with them. Talk about it and like, subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode of Getting Together. Thanks for joining us.